I deal with the testing process and getting you through this process. Just to let y'all know, this is a lot of information. And usually when I complete the testing talk, I have a lot of big eyes. And not everybody, but we have people that will be on edge because they feel overwhelmed. But the reason why you have this handbook is it literally has all the information that you need to know about the testing process. Now, I am available to help. And for Waco and Fort Worth, I'm available for help. If you need help with the process, you just need to give me a phone call. But I would request that you always refer to your handbook first. If you can't find the answer in your handbook, then by all means come to me. But I can almost guarantee just about every question that you might have is going to be located in here. So as you can see, there's a handy dandy table of contents. And I tried to label these so that the different categories are very intuitive. I am recording this. It is my hope to get this uploaded to YouTube, but I'll have to come over at some point and pull the recording off this computer. I'm not sure when I'm going to have the chance to do that, but if I get this up and running on YouTube, I will send out the link by the EAB system so that if you need to go back in and refer to it afterwards, you can do that. So our very first page here is the contact information for Educator Preparation Services. You were encouraged to save the handbook on a device. And the reason why I encourage you to do that is because all the links in the electronic copy are active. So you wouldn't have to type them into your laptop or whatever. You can just click on all these. As you can see, these are the people. You turned in your application to Miss Music. There's her email address, and here's the pages that apply to those certain categories. Miss Lanier is in charge of field experiences and clinical teaching. There's her email, as well as this will link directly to those pages on the website. Here's my contact information. Please, if you've got a paper copy, you might want to highlight this, that my preferred method of contact is that you call me, or even though people, if you want to stop by the office. And the reason for that is because usually the answer is so detailed. I want to talk to you to make sure that you understand the information, okay? It takes a lot of time to type it out, and then lots of times with back and forth, just making sure that everybody's on the same page. It's just easier if you pick up the phone and call me or come by the office. And then there's the link to the testing pages on the website. And then, have you met with Dr. Jones yet about the year-long residency? Okay, so you're familiar with him, and there's his contact information there. So this handbook is going to cover two different processes. The first one is going to be gaining initial approval to test your Texas exams, and then how to register for the actual Texas exams. And like I've already stated, that contained in this handout are the answers to the most frequently asked questions. It briefly covers the process, but I mean, you're not going to have any problems because you're going to be working on this process in your class with your instructor for getting test approval. You have to actually utilize the handbook. I can't force you to, but I can tell if you're not. I can tell if you're not using it. If at any time you have questions concerning the actual testing process, then please make sure to contact me. Otherwise, the approval process that you're going to be going through, those requirements are set by your academic department, curriculum and instruction. So if you have questions about what you have to achieve to actually gain the testing approval, then you need to go through your course instructors or your department head or whoever you're working on with the test approval process. Okay, before you begin either process, these need your immediate attention. Number one, everyone needs to log into TEA and make sure that when you set up your account last semester in block one, that you did so accurately. This happens every semester. There's a step 8 on the instructions. When you go in to fill it out, you have to go in after the fact to include your gender and ethnicity. And usually about 50% of the people fail to do that. That information has to be in your TEA account for our accreditation purposes. So I sent out emails to people saying, hey, you have an incomplete profile. Only 50% of those people went in and still did it. I've been sending out notifications and I don't know why they're getting ignored. But you need to go in and check and make sure that your first and last name is spelled correctly. You have a correct social security number and birth date, and that you have indeed completed your profile with your gender and ethnicity. Now, if you're unsure how to check for that, either stop by the office or give me a call and I can walk you through when you log in where you go to check those items out. But it's very important that you take care of this and you do it right away, because this will affect later on when you get your testing approval if you don't have accurate information in there. And then just a reminder that your Tarleton email is the official means of communication for anything that comes out of Educator Preparation Services. If I'm sending something to the group, it will always go through the EAB system, so it will go to your Tarleton email address. Same for our off campuses, for our Fort Worth and Waco people. You've got to get in the habit of checking your email. If it comes from me, it's always going to have something about certification testing in the subject line. Now, once you submit your requested test form to me, you're going to have the option of including a personal email or one that you use more frequently. If I have to contact you individually, I will use that email to contact you individually. I want to make sure I'm hitting the email that you check most regularly. But everyone, please get in the habit of checking your Tarleton address. And then once again, you're going to know where all the pages are for testing. And here's the active link. All right, what exams will I need to take? Below is the table that outlines. So I would be highlighting whatever your certification area is in the left-hand column, and then highlighting the exams over in the right column. Now, y'all don't know how fortunate you are that one test has been eliminated for you. You used to have to take the PPR, the Pedagogy Responsibility exam, but because you're doing a year-long residency now at this point, TEA has done away with that exam for you. So that's one less exam you have to take. But the numbers that are in this right-hand column are the numbers of the actual state exams, but they also match the numbers of the study plans that you will be completing in 240 tutoring. So just make sure you know the numbers so that when you go in and start working on your test approval information in 240 tutoring, that you're not selecting the wrong thing. We have had people get into the wrong study plans, they get all the way through it, and then it's like, that's the wrong plan. So you have to go back in and do it. Right, let's see here. So obtaining your initial test approval, it is your department that has set what the requirements are to gain initial test approval. Now, my understanding from talking to Dr. Garcia is you're going to be completing 240 tutoring this semester for your content area exam and your STR. I think you're using Dr. Gentry here in Stephenville, and then Dr. Fox for the Fort Worth Waco people. They will be working with you and telling you what you need to do. So I think you're going to start with 240 tutoring and start working on that. And then I think they have a Saturday, maybe scheduled for you to come in and take representative exams. Okay. But I don't enter any approvals until your department head forwards them to me. So towards the end of the semester, once you have completed and obtained the requirements that they're asking of you, they will send the approvals to me. And then once they hit my email, I'll go in the system and I'll enter them. I don't have the authority to gain testing approval for you. The ESL, and if you're SPED, you'll be working on those next semester while you're in block 3. So right now, it's just your content and the STR. It used to be content, STR, and PPR. So I hope y'all realize this is a good thing. This is really a good thing. Okay, the completed requested test forms for this group of students right now, spring 2025, is going to be due today. Okay, I want them in my inbox by no later than tomorrow, and we're going to take a look at this. So once I have that, I can start getting all of your information, entered in our testing tables that I have to keep. And then as approvals come in, then I will be marking all of your requested test forms with what you have been approved to take and entering those. We cannot approve you to take any additional exams that are not part of the certification area in which you were admitted into the teacher education program. You can do that after you finish the program, and we'll talk about that towards the end of the talk, what you can do, because I get asked that all the time. Can I be approved for other exams? No, you can't. Only in the exams that are related to whatever your areas are that when you were admitted into the teacher education program. Once approvals are entered in the system, I do not send out specific notifications. You just need to start monitoring your testing account that you will set up in Pearson and be watching for those to start testing. So submitting the initial requested test form, I should ask at this point, does anyone have any questions related to anything that's been discussed so far? Just go ahead and take yourself off mute and we'll address any questions that you might have. Okay, we'll keep going. So submitting the initial requested test form. So please, when you're submitting this today, make sure that you read this carefully. You're going to fill out this form that's found at this link. There is a sample in your handbook. And if you saved an electronic copy, do not fill out the handbook copy, because if you do, you'll send the entire handbook to me. And I don't need 32 pages. I just need the 4 pages. So please use this direct link to get to that form. So then complete the form, making sure that you've checked and filled out all the applicable boxes, and we're going to take a look at this. Then save the completed form to your device, naming it Requested Test Form 4 with your legal first and last name. Once you've saved it to your device, before you send it to me, open it back up and make sure you're saving it as a PDF. Okay, I had one of the previous groups, I've had them save it as Word and it throws everything off and it's all wonky, and just make sure you're saving it as a PDF. But open it up before you send it to make sure it's not blank, because sometimes depending on how your device is formatted, I receive a blank. There won't be anything filled in. So then once you've checked it, then you're going to email it to me. You're just going to email it to strong@tarleton.edu and put requested test document in the subject line. Or if you want to print it off and hand deliver it to me, you can do that too for our Steamville people. Okay. If you want confirmation that this form has been received, sent and received, then on your end of the email, you have to set up either a delivery receipt and or a read receipt. Okay. If you don't know how to do that, you can go into the help format of your email platform and take care of that. But if you ask me in the email, let me know if you received this, I'm sorry, I do not respond to those. I get too many. And then lots of times I'll get the form and then I'll get a separate email that says, I sent my form, did you receive it? I do not respond to those. So if you want to be certain that I've gotten it, just make sure you set up the delivery or the read receipt on your end of the email so that you know that it's come to me. All right, let's take a look at the form. Now, it may not have come through on yours, and you may not be able to see it that well if you printed it out, but please note, this says that this is a sample form only. Do not fill this one out. This is the one that if you fill this out in your handbook and send it, the entire handbook is going to come to me. So when you're filling this out, please take your time. Make sure you're looking at every field here to see what you have to enter. Please note that you're filling in both your Tarleton ID number and then over here, your TEA ID number. And that will never be any longer than 7 digits. This one gets left blank quite frequently. I don't know why, but it does. And then whatever campus you are, you're just going to click whatever campus you are, put in your mailing address, put in a primary phone. If you have an alternate phone that you want to list, I am always gonna try to contact you by email first. If I can't reach you that way, then I'll try to reach you by phone. If I can't reach you that way, then I'm gonna have to send something to you. This is where your primary email, please put whatever email you frequent. So that if I have to contact you individually, that's the email that I'm gonna start with. Okay, and then make sure you're also putting whatever your Tarleton email is, but whether you put it as a primary or an alternative email, that's entirely up to you. And then for gender and ethnicity, I get questions about, there's limitations here, and yes, there absolutely are limitations of what's available. But these options are the only one that TEA gives us at this point, and our accreditation as a teacher education program are based on this criteria. So these are the only options that we have to choose from. Please note here that gender and race/ethnicity selections should match TEA account information. So at this point, please just be consistent. Whatever you have entered in there, if you want to go in and change it today, if you think that you need to put something different or better in there, go ahead and change that. But whatever you're entering in the system needs to be consistent the rest of the way through the program. Under program verification, everyone will check the box. You are traditional teacher education program. And then whatever your content area is, which probably most of you are the EC through 6 core subjects, right? We may have some early childhood, pre-K through 3. And if we do have any middle school people in here, 4th through 8th grades, then you're going to click this. These are the only boxes that you're going to be checking under Part B. Okay, nothing else down here applies to you, so don't worry about that. Under academic status, most of you, I'm assuming, applied in the fall of 2024. If it was something different, then fill that in. Expected program completion, I'm assuming most of you are planning on spring of 2026. And then all of you will be doing the year-long residency, so check that. And your residency is going to start in the fall and finish in the spring. So that's going to be 25/26. Next page. Find your content area, and I'm just going to continue with the EC through 6 core subjects because that's what the majority of you will be doing. And then most of you are probably going to also have to have the science of teaching reading. If we have any middle school, depending on what your content area is, you may not. And then I think just about everybody is also ESL. So you're going to be checking whatever the exams were on that first page that we looked at that had your exams listed. You're going to be checking all of your exams, not just the ones you're getting approval this semester to take, but all of them. So if you're a SPED person, you would also be checking the special education. Okay. This is all you're going to fill out on this page. All right, we're not going to take a close look at this, but this lists all the policies. The one I do want to call to your attention is item number 3. Candidates may take only one exam per test administration date. When you go into register, I'll get to you just a minute. When you go into register, the system will allow you to select like a morning exam and an afternoon exam or an afternoon and evening or whatever. However, we are limiting you to one exam per day. Why do you think that is? Think we're trying to be mean to you or no? Y'all, these exams are not easy exams. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. You're going to be prepared, but they are emotionally and mentally taxing. So we've seen people in the past, a long time ago, because we've been doing this for a while now, people who tried to take 2 exams in the same day and they were not being successful on both exam or either exam. So we just decided to put that kind of buffer in place. So keep that in mind. But you need to read through the policies carefully because down at the bottom of this page where you're going to be putting your name, you are saying, I have received and read and understand the testing policies for Charlton State University. By signing below, I agree to adhere to the above stated policies and understand that failure to do so may result in the issuance of a flag and or ineligibility to complete the program which I am enrolled. In other words, you can be removed from the program depending on the severity of the violation. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you've read this, because when you put your name down there, you're saying you have read it and you understand it. And then the last page of the form is the perfect consent. You're going to type in your first and last name. And then this information down at the bottom in yes. I realize you've already included this information on the first page. However, TEA requires us to have this specific form on file. So that's why this is there. So I had a question about, is it about the form?
Just because I'm EC3, I couldn't find where it was, but am I just checking the bottom one right here?
No, oh, wait, whoa, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I think we've got 4 or 5 EC through, 3s. I'm sorry, I need to back up a little bit on this page. Okay, so the exams that are listed in this first box, these are offered continuously. That means that there are no specific windows where these exams are offered. Now, that does not mean that every single testing facility offers every single exam every single day of the week. Okay, so keep that in mind. For this particular test, I'm so glad you brought this up. For this particular exam for the early childhood pre-K through 3, they have very specific testing windows. So you're going to have to look at that, especially when it comes time to meet those test by and pass by dates, okay? But yes, if you're early childhood, then you're gonna click this box down here. Thank you so much, hon. I just totally just zoomed right on past
It's
that.
okay, I found it eventually, but I was like, I'm still gonna ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So any questions about the form? Now, when are you gonna submit this? Yeah, today. Okay, today. Any questions in Fort Worth or Waco? Or Rellis?
I think we're okay here in Waco.
So I know me along with others are transferring to Fort Worth and like we haven't got accepted yet.
Go ahead and
But-
put your current campus
It won't make
location.
confusion.
No, because what we're going to tie it to is where you started your classes. So we want to know who starts in Stephenville. Now, whether for field experiences in TR1 and TR2, you go to a different location, that's not going to have any effect on how we look at testing.
Okay,
Okay.
so we need to do Stephenville.
Stephenville,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. All right, so you may have started with 240 tutoring in block 1, so you're familiar with this? Okay, so the only thing I want to call to your attention about 240 tutoring is this item number 4. I'm not sure what your department has set for the requirements on what you have to achieve, but just keep in mind that there's only 3 practice exams attempts in those study plans. So if you are not able to achieve after those 3 attempts, what your department is requiring from you, then you have to contact 240 tutoring and you have to ask them to delete that particular plan and then start all over again. Now, keep in mind, you're not just starting over with the practice exams. You're starting all over from the beginning of the study plan. So I want to caution you, when you're working in 240 tutoring for your content and your STR this semester, that you make sure when you go in there that you're taking it seriously and that you're actually paying attention and not just trying to get to the end goal of this is what I need to get test approval. If you use 240 tutoring in the manner in which it has been designed and developed and intended, most people find it useful. Now, we know there's no one size fits all, and you're learning that when you go into the class as a teacher, you're not going to be able to deliver the materials all in one method and all of your students are going to get it. There's different learning styles and that kind of thing. But this program is an exceptional program if you're using it correctly. But you do have to schedule your time and devote time to get it done and have it done in time to meet whatever the deadline is that your department is saying you need to have test approvals. Okay, you cannot wait until the last minute. I see people the weekend before going in and frantically in there scrambling, trying to meet whatever the requirements are, and you're only gonna be frustrated. So I just cannot emphasize this enough that you've got to take this seriously when you're working on this, okay? All right. Student flagging procedure, there was a procedure developed to help identify situations that may hinder or prevent candidates from becoming the most effective and successful professional educator. It also indicates maybe a low-level commitment to the profession. So we have listed some of the things that you might be flagged for. Things that I flag students for is if they fail to meet test by dates. It used to be submission dates, but you're submitting everything through your department now. But just be aware of the flagging process. Depending on how many flags you've gotten, and depending on the severity of the issue that you're getting flagged for can determine the outcome. But if you want to see what the flag looks like, there's the direct link, okay? Now, if somebody tells you you're getting a flag, whoever issues the flag originates it. So it's not like you have to start the flag on yourself, okay? I've had people say, well, no, I know I'm getting the flag, how do I go in and I start that? You don't. Whoever's issuing the flag starts it and they email it to you, and then you just have to look it over, sign it, and send it back. Yes, do you have a question?
I know that we have a student in this class that's out today. For him missing the meeting, it result in.
No, I understand. I talked about it. Yeah. And that's one reason why I try to record these for any situations like that. Okay. All right. If you are a test taker with a documented disability or special health related need, you need to start working on this immediately. Just because you might have accommodations through Charlton, that does not necessarily mean that Pearson, that's the testing company, is going to accept the same documentation and that they're going to grant those accommodations based on the standards that Charlton has. So you really need to go in and you need to look this information over and get working on gathering your materials. You cannot submit those materials until approvals have actually been entered in the system. But you need to be familiar with the process. You cannot wait till the last minute because it may take 2 to 3 weeks to get granted those approvals once you submit your documentation to them. So also keep in mind that ETS does not get involved with this process due to FERPA. So you can go through the disabilities office and anybody there can help you if you're having issues with it. There's the link, but we're gonna go in to the testing site and we're gonna look at this. I'll show you how to find this information. Any questions from anybody? We'll keep moving. So registering for the Texas exams once approvals have been entered. So once you've actually met the requirements and submitted your documentation to the department, whether you're submitting them to Dr. Garcia or whether you're going to be submitting them to Dr. Libreras or Dr. Gentry or whoever, then they review them and they forward me the list and they say, these are the people that are approved. Expect that process can take up to 5 to 7 business days. Okay. Now, generally speaking, it does not. Generally speaking, it moves a lot faster, but it is not an immediate process. It's not like you submit your things 10 o'clock in the morning and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have testing approval. So just keep that in mind. We're still catching up. We don't have an electronic way yet at this point to get those approvals processed. So and especially like if somebody's out or if I was sick or something, it might delay the process. But if I'm in the office, well, even if I'm not in the office, I do it from home too. As soon as I see an email from Dr. Garcia saying this is the group of students today that are approved to test, I'm in the system entering those approvals. Now, if 7 days have passed and you were expecting an approval and it's not in the system, at that point, I would be saying, first start with whoever the faculty member is that you're working with, like if it's Dr. Lumbreras for your content, and say, hey, I thought I had test approval for my content. Have you forwarded that on to Dr. Garcia? And if he says, yeah, I forwarded that, then you can contact Dr. Garcia and say, I don't have test approvals yet for this. Have you forwarded this on to Brenda? And she'll say, yeah, I did it. And then you can hit me up and say, Brenda, what the deal here? But I can tell you, it's very rare when it happens, but it has happened. So just give us a little bit of grace on that. But I don't expect that we're gonna have a lot of issues with test approvals. So once you have those test approvals, you must test and retest by the dates established in the year-long residency testing guide table. We're gonna look at that. And then there are test by dates that you have to meet. Failure to meet those dates may result in the issuance of a flag. Failure to meet the passing score posting due dates will require postponement of the TR2 semester. So those are extremely tight due dates. So if for some reason you haven't passed those exams by that past by, we're gonna take a look at this, then you would have to delay the TR2 semester by 1 semester. So when you register, it's important to check the score posting schedule to make sure when you go into register, it's going to tell you if you test on this date, this is the date that your score is going to post, so that you know exactly when those scores will post. For the science of teaching and reading, there is a constructive response on that exam, and so that is going to delay or extend your score posting date by 2 weeks sometimes. Also, you need to know for whatever particular testing facility you test at, what the requirements are. When you go in to register, you are going to be bombarded by Pearson with all of that information. It's going to tell you how many forms of ID you're going to need that day, the do's and the don'ts. It's your responsibility to make sure what that particular testing facility is requiring of you. Now, I know Waco has a testing facility on campus, Stephenville. Our campus does offer the Texas exams. Like I said, not every exam every single day, but the sooner you get registered, once you get test approvals, the better chance you have of getting the time and location and day that you want to test. If your exam requires any special tools like calculator or something like that, then you'll want to make sure you investigate that. I don't think that's the case with any exams that y'all are going to have to take. Just make sure you familiarize yourself with all of the Pearson information when you go into register. Oh, y'all are going to be the fall residency start. So you're going to fall under this orange column. And I'm not sure how I did this, but I've got the old table in here. Y'all need to cross out the PPR. That's the exam that you no longer need as a resident. So anywhere you see PPR, cross that out. Okay? Yay, cross out the PPR.
Just the PPR part. It's called.
Yeah, just the PPR part.
Yeah, it's for initial testing. This is testing.
So as you can see for your content area and your STR exam, you're going to have to test that exam by no later than June 15th. Okay, that's first attempt. And we want all of our candidates to be successful on the first attempt. And I'll explain to you why that's gotten even more important now than what it was in the past. If you have to retest, then the next retested date for either of those exams is August 15th or sooner. And then if you were to need an additional retest, then it's October 1st. And we're not worried about PPR. And then passing score posting for cross out the PPR for content area and STR is going to be December 15th. That is a firm date, okay? There's no budging on that date. If you do not have passing scores by that time, then you're gonna have to delay TR2. And then you can see, the test by dates for ESL and special education is gonna be January 15th, by no later than January 15th, and then retest by dates on that. So, any questions at all about this table? As long as you're following that orange column, you should be good. Waco, Fort Worth, Dallas, any questions?
We're okay here.
Okay, as was stated, candidates will not receive separate notification of test approvals. You're gonna have to monitor your Pearson account. We are gonna take a look at Pearson. And allow up to 5 to 7 working days, for those to get in. Failure to meet those test by and retest by dates may result in the issuance of flags. I'm not gonna go through this word by word here. No, okay. I'm gonna leave this up to you to examine this further. A passing score on all of these exams is a 240. A perfect score is 300. I don't understand the scoring, but if you get a 240 or better on all of these exams, then you pass. Once you get your test results, if for some reason you were not successful, then you need to immediately contact your mentor teacher to find out, okay, are there required remediation sessions scheduled that I have to attend? And if not, then what do I need to do? Although there's more information in here that depending on what number of attempts you're on is going to determine what you have to do for retest. We'll take a closer look at that. Keep in mind that passing of exams does not certify you as a teacher. We hear that frequently. I've got all my exams passed, so I'm certified. You cannot be recommended for certification, and that's something that Miss Music does. You cannot be recommended for certification until you've completed all your coursework, you've had a successful clinical experience, you've graduated, and your degree has posted in the system. So if you graduate in the spring of 26, your certification will not hit the TEA system. She cannot recommend you for that until after the degree has posted. Now, she stays on top of those so that once she sees your degree has posted, she goes in and she hits the recommendation button as long as you've gone in and applied for certification. And you will get that information towards the end of TR2. She'll send out the information that says, okay, you've got all your exams passed, now you can go ahead and you can apply. You also have to have fingerprinting done and everything, so she gives you an opportunity to have that all done in time, so that once she hits that recommendation button, it's almost immediate that the state issues you your certificate. Now, they don't send you a copy. You have to go into your TEA account and download a copy and print a copy off. But it's almost an immediate issuance so that you can have it in your hand right away. For core subjects, people, your EC through 6 core subjects, there's 5 subjects to that exam. ELAR, math, social studies, science, and the last category is fine arts, health, and PE. In order to get a successful status on that exam, you have to pass all 5 subject areas. Okay? If for some reason you're not successful on 2 or more of those subject areas, then when you retest, you have to register for the entire exam. Any subject areas that you have passed, you can just scroll through those, you can just ignore those, and you just retake whatever ones you have left to pass. The only time it allows you to register for one subject area is if that's all you have left. Say, for example, you weren't successful on the math, and it was just the one, then you'd go in, and it would cost $65 as opposed to $120 to test the one area. But if you have more than one subset to retest, you've got to register for the entire exam. You might want to highlight that because that's a question that comes up. Then once again, there's for any reason you remove between TR1, then for some reason you have to take a break between TR1 and TR2, then you have to have all of your exams passed in order to go into TR2. You wouldn't be allowed to go out there without SPED or ESL passed if you have to take a break. Okay, how to register for the Texas exams. Now, we've already talked about this, that everybody needs to go into their TEA account to check for accuracy. If you have made a mistake, some of the items you might be able to fix yourself, but TEA might require you to submit documentation so that they can make changes. So you don't want any surprises when it comes time to register for the exam. You want to make sure that everything in there is correct now, and if you've got an opportunity to make those corrections. So after you've done that, and oh, by the way, if you submit the form to me, the request to test form, and I go into the system and you still do not have your gender and ethnicity in there, you're not taking care of business, okay? So this is critical, people. This affects our accreditation, so it's critical that you take care of this. All right, let's go into, this is Pearson's, the testing website. Well, it's not, I don't know what I just did. All right, every single page. And it doesn't say Pearson, but this is who the vendor is, so it's just easier to refer to them as Pearson. And every single page in the upper right-hand corner, there's this orange tab. This is Contact Us. If you're having difficulties with this website, I'm not able to help you, but they have several different ways that you can contact people and they can help you. So the first thing you probably want to do is go into Register. Anytime you're in here, you always want to click on the tab that has Texas on it. Before registering, register now. We're going to click this. Oh, of course. Or what, today, huh? Today's the day. This is where you go in and set up your account. Okay, it'll ask you to either you're going to register, and then below that it'll say you don't have an account, set it up now. This is where you go to set up your account. When you set up your Pearson account, and this is another reason why you want to check your TEA account. Whatever you put in to your TEA account, you must match it in your Pearson account. I enter test approvals in TEA, and then TEA talks to Pearson, and you go into Pearson and register. So if you have a discrepancy between the information that you've put into TEA and it's different from the information that you put into Pearson, there may be problems. So just make sure you're consistent. Once again, be consistent. Whatever you put in your TEA account, however you set that up, put that same information in the Pearson account. But this is where you go in. And then as far as exams, you can look at this. Let's go to the home page, because the home page, this is where you could find the alternative testing arrangements. And you would just select exam. You never want these Texas Pack. Don't get confused with these Texas Pack. You always want Texas. We'll just go ahead and look at course subjects BC through 6. And then you can do an expand all here. This has got all of the information that you need to read through. There's lots of links here. This is what, if you need accommodations, you need to start this process today. You can see how much information there is here and how lengthy this is. All right, let's look at here. Once again, we'll look at core subjects and the preparation. For every single exam that you need to take, you should be going in to this for every single exam, and I'll show you why. You want to make sure you just browse through some of these initial things here. But for core subjects, This has got the ELAR, the math, social studies, science, fine arts. We're just gonna start here with them. They're giving you sample questions. They're showing you the types of questions that they ask them. And although you probably will not see the same identical questions on the exam, it's very possible that you will see something very similar. But they're giving you, like for the ELAR, they're giving you 17 practice questions. You should be going through this for each exam that you need to take. Let me see. How to prepare for the exam. Learn what the exam covers. Assess how well you know the content. This is extremely important. Familiarize yourself with the different types of exam questions. How to approach unfamiliar question format. Lots of times when I talk to students who were not successful on the first attempt, I will ask them, do you think it was a content knowledge issue or do you think it was a testing strategy issue? And frequently I hear, I didn't know how to approach the question. So if you read through this, this is telling you, here's all the different types of questions that we ask and how we ask them, and this is how you approach them. And they give you examples of each one of the methods of how they ask questions. So this is so important, y'all. If you're just completing your 240 tutoring and your representative exam and you're just relying on that for exam preparation, you're only 50% ready to test. Until you've gone through this information, you really need to have this as the backbone of the day that you go in. Otherwise, you're going to be surprised. You'll be surprised. Something that I hear frequently about 240 tutoring is the questions they ask on 240 tutoring and the way they ask those questions aren't anything like the way they do it on the actual exam. And you're absolutely right. The practice exams for 240 tutoring are not going to look anything like the questions that you're going to get on the actual exams. 240 tutoring is content driven. So they're only working you through the content and making sure that you're familiar and you know your content. So you cannot draw a comparison between what things look like on 240 tutoring and how they look on the actual exam. Once you register, and I think that'll pop up automatically when you register, but if you want to know when scores are going to post, so once again, you would choose Texas. Let's look at the STR because that was the one that has specific score posting dates because it has a constructed response. And that's something that you're going to be working with. I think Dr. Gentry and Dr. Fox will be working with you on that. But there's lots of information here in the test preparation materials on how to approach that constructed response. Otherwise, most of these tests are going to be just multiple choice. But if your exam has a constructed response, it's kind of like an essay type thing. You need to know how to approach that. So if you have to have your score posted by December 15th at the absolute latest, and this would only go for if you need additional tests, if you weren't successful on the first attempt of the STR, then you can see that the last time you can test this exam would be between November 10th and November 23rd, and the score is going to post on the 5th of December. Because you have to have a score posted, a passing score posted by the 15th. If for some reason you tested during this window, well, your score is not going to post until the 19th, so you've missed that window. You've missed it, okay? So look at that for every exam. I know core subjects, usually if you take it on a Monday, your score is going to post Friday. It's sooner if it doesn't have a constructed response, but a holiday schedule can also throw that off too. So Thanksgiving would be throwing that off a little bit for score posting. So any questions at all here about Pearson? It's a really intuitive site. I really haven't seen many people have problems with it. So just make sure you're reading through everything. Did I hear somebody on the verge of a question? No? Okay. Okay, now unfortunately, we've got to go back through all the pages here.
Page 19 though.
Thank you. All right, so here's the registration instructions, but like I said, that it's really intuitive as far as getting in there, and you can set that Pearson thing up today if you want to, once you've gone in and checked your TEA account as well. You don't have to wait. All right, one of the reasons why we are particularly interested, not that we haven't been all along, but we're particularly interested in having everybody pass their exams on their first attempt, is because of this new program that the president just instituted for reimbursement of your exams. In order to be eligible for reimbursement, you have to pass all of your exams on the first attempt. Okay? So if for any reason you had to retest any one of the, most of you, 3 exams that you have to take, some maybe even more, because you're going to be sped, so you'll have 4. If you have to retest any of them, then that knocks you out of eligibility. You cannot apply for reimbursement until after you have tested all of your exams. So keep in mind that the ESL exam, you're not going to get approval to test that until probably towards the end of the TR1. So the soonest you would be able to apply for reimbursement would be once you have that exam passed, as long as you've also passed your content and your STR. Please do not apply before you have tested all of your exams, and do not apply if you haven't passed all of them on the first attempt. This is having to go through a lot of channels. It goes through the scholarship office, to the president's office, to my office, to back to the president's office, to back to business services. So, don't be thinking in terms of, well, I didn't pass one exam, but I'm going to push it through and see what happens. Please don't do that. It's time consuming for everybody. And something that's not included on this, because I didn't have the information at the time, is it can take up to a month for business services to process the refund on your exams. The refund does not come out of Educator Preparation Service. The only thing we do over in our office is we just verify eligibility for the reimbursement. That's all we do. So business services has to actually process those payments. Now, the president's office did tell me they're working on trying to get it done more quickly, but it can take up to a month at this point for eligibility. So any questions about the program, the reimbursement program? I went back through and looked at the people that are out in TR2 right now. We had, I think it was 51%, don't quote me on this, but I think it was close to 51% of all of our candidates are eligible for this that are in TR2 this semester because they passed all of their exams on the first test. So this is maybe another incentive for everyone to make sure that when you are preparing for these exams, that you're doing everything possible within your power to make sure you're putting in the time and effort, because this is a pretty good chunk. Most of the exams are 120. I round up. They're actually 116, but then they put on like a $3.40 Texas use fee on there, so I just rounded up to 120. I know that the STR is 140. I'm not sure about the pre-K, the early childhood pre-K through 3. That one might be 142. I can't remember at this point. But you're going to have well over $400 or $400 close with 3 exams. So this is a good program if you qualify for this. All right. If you have to do a retest, like I said, a passing score is 240. 4 subjects, you have to pass all 5 subject areas to get a passing status on that exam. Once you get your score report, if you see that you need a retest, you need to start working on that process right away. Now, TEA by law has a requirement that you have to wait 30 days from your last attempt to test again. That doesn't mean you wait 30 days to start working on your remediation. You can get test approval before the 30 days. It just means that when you go in to re-register, the system, the Pearson system is not going to allow you to select a date that was sooner than 30 days since your last attempt. But you can get test approval and you can register before the 30 days are up. And the process, you would probably start, well, you're going to look at this. You'll start with this. If this is your first request to retest, this walks you through the steps. But once again, you're going to want to contact your faculty mentor, and Educator Preparation Services has no idea who you're assigned to. So anytime you have questions about who your faculty mentor is, then you need to go through, I'm drawing a blank, Andrea in, right across the hall here. Yes, she'd be able to tell you who you're assigned to. We don't have that information over in Ed Prep. But you'll want to make sure that they don't have any mandatory remediation sessions scheduled that they're going to require you to attend. But then here's all the links to all the forms and everything. And it's going to tell you, they go to Dr. Garcia. If it's a second request to retest, then you're going to be following this information. If a third and fourth is required, you're going to follow this information. And then here's just more of the forms. But these links are all active in here. So that's the importance of saving your handbook to your device so that you've got fast access to all this information. I get asked quite frequently for additional resources, testing resources, and I have literally listed everything that I'm aware of here. So if you go through this list, and once again, active links, I think, I probably need to go back through and check them to make sure that they're all working. They were all working at one point. I'm not going to be able to help you aside from what's listed here. As you can see on this page, there's all kinds of links that are specially related to the core subjects exam. So I would be taking advantage of these if you need more resources. This information, some of it we've already covered and some of it we haven't, but I'm going to go through it rather quickly. So once again, you'll be on your own to go through this in detail. You've got to read all this. You can tell probably how quickly we're going through this. So I don't want you to miss anything. You just need to make sure you're utilizing the handbooks. You've got to meet the requirements that are set out by your academic department, making sure that you're meeting all the due dates. We talked about the test approvals. Once they hit your Pearson account, you can go in and start registering. You might want to highlight this, do not confuse those Texas PAC exams. They will allow you to register for them without having any approval, and it'll cost you the same, but they're not gonna count for anything. So don't get confused with those. We talked about if you need special services for testing, you've got to get started on that today. You've got to follow the dates outlined in the testing guide tables. We just talked about the cost of the exams. We already covered the only taking one exam per day. Your score report's going to be available to you. They post on Tuesdays and Fridays. So depending on when you tested, if you tested like the day before, then it's going to be like if you tested on Monday, it's not going to post until Friday. There's that lapse in there. It's never the next day. I will know your test scores before you. I get the scores early on Tuesdays and Fridays. I think they tell you you'll have them by 10 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you're absolutely in an itch to get your your results and you want to come to me, I'll tell you what they are. If you'd rather me not be the bearer of any bad news that there might be, because I don't like being the bearer of bad news, I can tell you that. Then, you might want to wait until they actually post. But I mean, if you're really itching to know, you can come to me on Tuesday or Friday, and I'll let you know what you did. You do not need to submit your exam scores to me because, like I said, I will automatically get them. I get emails all the time with test scores, so you don't waste your time. We talked about that 30-day wait period, but once again, don't wait the 30 days to get started on the retest process. It's just not gonna let you test sooner than 30 days. You're gonna have to complete additional study plans or preparation requirements as set forth by your academic department to retest. State law only permits Charlton the ability to approve you to test any one given exam for a maximum of 5 attempts. This is typically not a problem, especially if you're taking your preparation seriously. It has happened. If you want to continue, there is a waiver process through the state that you can continue. We don't ever want it to get to that point because they're going to charge you $168 just to review your issue. And they're going to require you to jump through all kinds of hoops. And then depending on if they approve you to retest on a waiver, you're still going to have to pay for the exam. So it's going to cost you more than twice as much to test if you have to do it on a waiver. So we don't want to get to that point, but there is a fail safe there if for some reason you max out on 5 attempts. All right, we talked about the teal account. You need to go in there and make sure that is complete. Contact me if you're not sure how to do it. We talked about the importance of reading the information that Pearson provides when you register. What you'll want to do is whatever, and depending on where you test, and the testing facility is going to determine if they're going to accept one form of ID or 2 forms, but they'll tell you, and driver's license is typically the first one that they'll accept. Something to keep in mind, whatever documentation you're using that day for identification has to be original. You cannot take photocopies. Your first and last name have to match on that documentation, whatever you put in your TEA and your Pearson account. They're not looking at middle initial. They're not looking at your address. They don't care where you live. They're just looking at first and last name. And your documentation cannot be expired. So pull out your documentation that you're going to use just to take a look at that. We have had instances right here at Charlton's testing facility where people have shown up to test, and the people that were working in the testing facilities that day even knew the student, but because the form of identification was expired by law, they had to turn them away. You don't lose the attempt. The attempt doesn't count against you, but you lose your money. So keep that in mind, okay? You can test wherever. If you're gonna go home over a long weekend or over the summer or whatever, you can test wherever. We talked about your Charlton email being the official way of communication, especially if I'm contacting the entire group. This is just more, make sure you're reading everything that Pearson's throwing you. Don't take anything in that they say that's a prohibitive item. We talked about laying out a semester for any reason. If for some reason you have an interruption in your course sequence, whether something comes up and you have to take a break between block 2 and TR1 or between TR1 and TR2, whenever it may occur, in addition to informing your academic department of what's going on, please, everybody contact EdPrep, because that's where, we have to make changes to placements and do things like that. And lots of times, yes, you may tell your academic department, but that information doesn't get relayed to us. And lots of times we're the last to know what's going on. So, if you're comfortable talking to Dr. Jones about an issue you might have and why you might have to take a break, then make an appointment and come over and talk to him, or just make sure you're keeping us informed of anything that may change. We talked about, not being certified as just based off, passing your exams. When you graduate, your teacher certification areas are not gonna be listed on your diploma. The only thing that's gonna be listed on your diploma is gonna be what your academic major was. Tarleton has no idea what you're gonna do once you leave. I mean, yeah, we do over in ed prep, but I mean, Tarleton as a whole doesn't know. It's going to be your teacher certificate that's gonna have that content area on there and then the ESL. The STR is pulled in with your content area. So if your EC through 6 core subjects is gonna say EC through 6 core subjects with STR, with science and teaching reading. So you'll start out with the ESL and whatever your content is. Our SPED person, you will have that additional SPED content on there, so you'd have 3 on there. Okay, if you're interested in getting certified in other areas, you have to wait until your degree has posted and you've been recommended for certification and that certificate has been issued by TEA. Once you have that certificate issued, then you're free at that point to go into Pearson and start registering to take any one of those additional classroom content area exams. But as you pass them, you have to apply to have that added to your certificate. It does not automatically apply. We have no control once you're gone and you're a program finisher. Then that's all up to you. And if you want to test additional, and we recommend that, that'll make you more marketable to be able to get jobs wherever. But you can go in and test those exams, but you have to still apply to the state to have it added to your certificate. I hope everybody takes a look at the last page, the Dennis Keenan page, that application deadline is probably coming up pretty quickly. I think there's 4 different qualifiers, and the last I knew, as long as a person met one of the qualifiers, there was a 100% award rate in there. You have to have a scholarship application on file, but you have to specifically apply for that scholarship. It's not one of the ones that automatically populates and it'll pull you in to see, you know, what you're eligible for. You have to say that you want to specifically apply for that. And you can be awarded that multiple, you could be awarded for TR1 and TR2. So they say that they leave money on the table every semester because not enough people apply to use the available funds up. So it's a good way to offset the front end of the cost of your exams, maybe. If at any time you have questions about what exam approval you currently have, then please check your Pearson account first. And like I said, if you're expecting an approval and it's not there, then, you know, start with your faculty member that should have been granting you the approval. If you've got questions, either call me or come directly to my office. I'll help you out with the testing process. And then just keep in mind that it's imperative that you continue to prepare to take these exams right until the time that you're registered. We've seen a tendency sometimes of people getting testing approval. You might get testing approval, say like by the end of April, and then they either wait until the end of May or the first part of June to start testing. You've got to meet that June 15th test by for SPR and content. But if you're not doing anything in the interim time, then that doesn't really make sense. You want to keep preparing right up until you test. So I think I tried to put all of the links together on one page so that you wouldn't have to scroll through all the individual pages. So they're all labeled here, but these are all active links. There's the Dennis P. McKay. I do a stop share here. Does anybody have any questions at all? Now's the time. Now's the time. Are you scared to death? No. Okay, what do you think is the most frightening aspect of this?
Staying on top of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see.
Yes. But I think once you start the process, then it's gonna start to flow. And it's not gonna be as intimidating as maybe it sounds, or as intimidating as I sound. I know I'm a northerner, and I know I have a tendency to come across sometimes when this information is pretty intense. Don't let my demeanor scare you. I have never bitten anybody, so don't let my demeanor scare you. I am no nonsense. But as long as you're doing what you need to do and you're trying to stay on top of things and you're doing your best, we're not gonna have any problems. We're gonna get along just fine. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, Fort Worth or Waco, any questions, or Aurelis, anything?
Nope, you did a great job. Thank you for being so thorough.
Appreciate it. And best wishes as you get started on the process. Bye.